Hello everyone and welcome back to Hardware Unboxed. It's been a while since I've appeared on the channel, but I'm back with a look at one of my favorite MSI gaming laptops, the MSI GS63VR Stealth Pro. And for the Aussies and New Zealanders watching this video, you might be interested in the giveaway I'll be discussing at the end. Spoiler alert, we're giving away one of these laptops thanks to MSI. But before then, let's take a look at the GS63VR. Now, the GS63 has been on the market in a variety of variants for a couple of years, but this particular model includes something special: NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1070 Max-Q graphics. Previously, this laptop was restricted to just a GTX 1060, so it's awesome to see MSI bumping this up to the power of a 1070, with the help of NVIDIA, in the very same relatively thin and light design. As for other hardware, all the usual stuff: an Intel Core i7-7700HQ, 16GB of RAM, a 256GB SSD, and a 2TB hard drive. Configurations like this are priced around $2,000 or about $3,400 in Australia, which is a bit pricey compared to the most basic GTX 1070 laptops. However, these basic laptops tend to be pretty chunky, usually around 25mm thick and 2.2 kilograms heavy. The GS63 is 17.7mm thick and 1.8 kilograms heavy, so it's significantly more portable, even though you still need to lug around that 600-gram power brick too. The GS63VR doesn't just have a portability advantage, it's also one of MSI's best designs. The slim aluminium alloy chassis looks great because it doesn't go completely overboard with gamer style, though there are some angles that it does have a few more gamery red highlights. And yep, there's a 3-zone RGB backlit keyboard as well, so MSI can hit all of those 2017 buzzwords. Do you love I/O? Well, the GS63 has you covered with basically everything. 4 USB-A ports, Thunderbolt 3, HDMI, mini DisplayPort, Ethernet, SD card slot, and 2 3.5mm audio jacks. But do you want really good laptop speakers? Because you might want to choose a different laptop. Also, what's up with this strange power button placement? Bit odd having it on that corner of the laptop. MSI are still using SteelSeries keyboards for their laptops, in this case one with a numpad. The layout is good and the typing experience is acceptable with a spongy but serviceable feel to each key. It's perfectly fine for gaming. The trackpad, on the other hand, it's not great, which is thoroughly unsurprising considering it's from Elan. You want to use an external mouse and save yourself the frustration of this trackpad if you plan on doing any sort of serious gaming. The display is exactly what you'd want on a gaming laptop with this hardware inside. It's a 15.6-inch 1080p IPS LCD with a refresh rate of 120Hz. That last point is important as the GTX 1070, it's typically capable of gaming above 60 FPS at 1080p ultra settings. The extra smoothness and fluidity provided by a 120Hz refresh is noticeable in a lot of situations, though it's a little disappointing there's no G-Sync support. But the big thing that you're all interested in, of course, is going to be the performance. So let's talk about that. In terms of the CPU and RAM, the combination of the i7-7700HQ and 16GB of RAM is basically, standard for gaming laptops these days. So it's no surprise the GS63 matches the performance of similar systems in CPU-heavy benchmarks. It's so similar, I'm not going to bore you with the graphs that don't show anything interesting, but you can see a couple of examples right here. Before I look at the GTX 1070 Max-Q GPU though, here's a quick look at storage performance. The hard drive is glacially slow, in a massive shock to no one, but the SSD, it's very quick. It's a Samsung PM961 256GB in my case, which has excellent sequential read and write performance and very good random performance. There's not a whole lot of available space for games, hence the hard drive that's included, but if you do install apps on it, you won't be disappointed with how it performs. So the GTX 1070 Max-Q GPU is the key piece of new hardware here, and it's slightly different to the standard GTX 1070 we see in other gaming laptops. Unlike other mobile 1070s, Max-Q designated 1070s have to hit specific noise, power and thermal targets all related to the cooler. As Max-Q laptops are slim, the cooler isn't that beefy, so it can't dissipate as much heat as thicker laptops. As a result, the GTX 1070 Max-Q may not necessarily max out at the rated TDP at all times. And on top of this, Nvidia's 40 dBA cooler noise limit prevents fans from imitating jet engines to compensate for the smaller heatsink. So what does all of this mean? Well, in simpler terms, it means the Max-Q GTX 1070 variant typically doesn't reach the same performance levels as the standard 1070. Both GPUs are physically identical with the same specs like 2048 CUDA cores, a rated boost clock of 1645 MHz, but Max-Q leads to a different power and clock speed profile. So let's jump right into some games to look at performance, starting with one of the highest selling games of all time, Grand Theft Auto 5. At maximum settings, this title is relatively hard to run on laptops, though the GTX 1070 Max-Q exceeds 75 FPS on average here. Performance is similar to the standard GTX 1070 in the Asus GL502 VS on average, though it falls behind in 1% lows, but all up a very playable experience on the GS63. Rise of the Tomb Raider is a punishing game at maximum detail levels, and it's in this game that the GTX 1070 Max-Q slots in nicely between the GTX 1070 and GTX 1060. The 1070 is 31% faster, while the 1070 Max-Q is itself 22% faster than the GTX 1060. With 1% lows below 30 FPS, it's unlikely you want to play on these specific settings though. Deus Ex Mankind Divided is another game where the 1070 Max-Q sits between the standard 1070 and 1060. Looking at average results using the Ultra preset, there's an 8 to 10 FPS gap separating the 1070 Max-Q from GPUs on either side, and 1% lows are decent, without being outstanding. Hitman is known to be a CPU demanding game, but this doesn't seem to be the issue holding back the GTX 1070 Max-Q. Again, we're seeing a similar split between the 1070, 1070 Max-Q and 1060 when looking at 1% lows. You can see the CPU limited nature in the Aorus X5 V7 results, which come in a fair way ahead of other GTX 1070 laptops due to that faster HK series CPU. But Civilization 6 is the most CPU limited game in this set of benchmarks, hence the GTX 1070 Max-Q performing around the same levels as the standard 1070 and even the 1060 at times. Playable, though a faster CPU definitely helps a lot in this game. Watch Dogs 2 is one of the strongest results for the 1070 Max-Q. The fully fledged 1070 is just 8% faster, while the 1070 Max-Q clocks in 26% ahead of the 1060. With an average result of 47 FPS using the Ultra preset, you may want to turn down the quality levels to hit that golden 60 FPS mark, though there's no stuttering or frame pacing issues even at this quality. Mass Effect Andromeda was a flop, but it's not a bad game to benchmark, particularly inside the surprisingly demanding Tempest area. Anyway, we're seeing 13% more performance than the 1060 here, which is okay, though it does allow the GS63VR to hit a 60 FPS average. Jump onto a planet and you will see better frame rates. Prey, it's one of my favorite games of the year and it runs really well on laptops. The GTX 1070 Max-Q here hits a 1% low above 60 FPS in our test with an average of 90 FPS. Super solid results here. You also get a fair bit more performance than the GTX 1060, 25% more to be exact. The final game I have a chart for is Shadow of War, a very disappointing title with a horrendous grind war endgame. I pushed myself through this game's story, but the ending is just so bad. Anyway, it runs reasonably well on the GTX 1070 Max-Q despite the punishing requirements of the high resolution texture pack. If you turn down the settings from ultra to high, you will hit a 60 FPS 1% low. And there's no charts for this last game just yet, but I did play some Assassin's Creed Origins on this system and found you can run it on the ultra high preset with a 1% low of around 35 FPS. Much more enjoyable game than Shadow of War, by the way, if you are thinking of choosing, a current generation game. Time to digest all the gaming results. The main thing to note here is the GTX 1070 Max-Q provides a very similar relative experience to the GTX 1080 Max-Q. The 1080 Max-Q sat almost exactly between the 1070 and 1080 when averaged across the games I tested with. It's a similar story with the 1070 Max-Q looking at average frame rates. The standard 1070 was 17.8% faster than the 1070 Max-Q on average, while the 1070 Max-Q is 20.8% faster than the standard 1070 on average. These figures improved in favor of the GTX 1070 Max-Q when looking at 1% lows. Here the 1070 Max-Q was 28.6% faster than the 1060, while the 1070 was just 11.5% faster. But all up, you can in general expect performance between the 1070 and 1060 unless you overclock, which is something I didn't cover here. So what about thermals and noise? Well, the GS63VR produces similar thermals to a lot of gaming laptops I've tested. In Watch Dogs 2, the CPU hit 92 degrees, while the GPU sat around 81 degrees after a long period of gaming. But the GS63 is also reasonably quiet, achieving 43 dBA from 50 centimeters away. Yeah, this is 3 dBA higher than Nvidia's Max-Q specifications, but it's still pretty quiet compared to other gaming laptops. Chuck on some in-game audio through headphones or speakers and you can't hear this system at full blast, which is a really good result. There could be some room for overclocking here considering the low maximum fan speeds, but that's something you'll have to explore if you buy one of these laptops. And should you buy one? Well, that depends on what you want from a gaming laptop. There are cheaper GTX 1070 laptops out there, even from MSI themselves, that provide better gaming performance. The difference in price is as much as $600 in some cases, so if you want the best performance and don't care about form factor, get one of those GTX 1070 laptops instead. But if you want something portable, the GS63VR is a great choice. It's the same price as the GTX 1070 Max-Q variant of the Asus ROG Zephyrus, but you don't have to deal with the awkward keyboard position. It's $250 more than the GTX 1060 version of the GS63, but 20 to 30% faster. It beats the Razer Blade 2, offering more performance at the same price. Combine these factors and you end up with a great portable gaming laptop purchase. Now, what about that giveaway I promised at the start of the video? Well, we're partnering up with MSI to celebrate the Christmas season and give away one of these very laptops, a GS63VR Stealth Pro with a GTX 1070 Max-Q inside, to a lucky person from the Australia-New Zealand region. Yes, this giveaway is just for those in Australia and New Zealand. Unfortunately, we couldn't do this one worldwide, but those in the ANZ region are in with a great chance of winning. There's also 3 surprise gift packs from MSI to give away for the runners up. So to enter, follow the links to MSI's registration site in the description below and leave a comment on this video, on MSI's Facebook post and on Nvidia's Facebook post when those go live. I'll also put links to those in the description below when those posts are up. So get commenting, follow the links and follow all of that good stuff. You have until Christmas Day, that's December 25th, to sign up, with the winner getting announced on December 25th at 6 p.m. Sydney time. MSI tells me the winners should get their gifts in the first week of 2018, so very exciting times. Oh, and for those of you outside the Australia region, I know it's a bit disappointing that you can't join in this particular giveaway, but we do have some global giveaways planned for this month as well, so stay tuned to the channel for those. So good luck everyone. Thanks to MSI for running this giveaway in conjunction with Hardware Unboxed. Hope you enjoyed the review and we'll catch you next time.